Right, moving on. Time to get to a different area in Brio, grab the important upgrade, then go back to Elysia. Again, as much as I want to get this game done in a reasonable amount of time, I'm not looking forward to more story progress in this game. Not when the story has been this iffy, or when too much of the event so far have felt like filler in a game that wanted to try to be more of a narrative sort of thing as we go from beginning to end. I'm not judging this game based on the standard set by Metroid Dread. That would be unfair considering how long after this game's release that was let loose. But there is just no denying that narrative-wise, it just hasn't felt as satisfying to play through as the other Metroids I've played through on this channel. From Fusion to Super Metroid to, Metroid Prime 1. Just like there's no denying that I'm still having more fun playing through it than I did Metroid Prime 2. As a side note, is anyone ever going to do anything about Grundus' ship just sitting there? Or is that ship just going to become a permanent fixture on the planet for the rest of time? At the very least, it might be funny if in Metroid Prime 4 we see a lizard just showing up out of nowhere flying in Grundus' old ice ship. It would feel like a bit of a nonsensical callback, but hey, Metroid Prime 4 has been in production long enough that I think the design team might end up losing their minds to some degree or another. Pretty much anything is possible considering how long that game's been in the oven. I just really hope that whatever comes out turns out to be good. Very least, breaking that ice is going to help us open a small path. A path that likely leads to another small upgrade. Based on how the fuel gel works, I'm pretty sure Brio is supposed to be the fire world of this game, and considering how many memorable fire locations have been in this franchise, that's more than a little annoying to me. Hell, all the locations we've been to in this game so far just feel pretty underwhelming, and I really hope that whatever comes after Elysia has something with a bit more meat to it. That charged shot was probably overkill, but hey, it was already charged, so may as well have used it on something instead of just hitting a random section of wall. Well, that prophecy better not include anything about Samus. Part of me wants to find it a bit bullshit that he managed to find someone who had a vision to go seek him, and that person becomes his apprentice. The other is glad that we have nothing to do with this prophecy. We already dealt with enough of that sort of crap back on Talon 4, where the Chozo knew we'd come in and save the day due to seeing the future and that bullshit. And yet another part can't help chuckling over the fact that they were trying to do something to prevent the Phazon seed from landing, when their planet is already a complete wasteland that barely supports any life. Hell, if anything, the Phazon-enhanced creatures might have had an easier time living across this ruined world than the more conventional life. But I suppose that's just my absolute disdain for this planet and how the game has handled it coloring my vision. Right, that's another missile expansion for us. Okay. Looks like the mystery item we need to grab isn't too far from our landing zone. According to the map, it shouldn't be too difficult to reach. But then most of the maps we see in this franchise don't mention that various obstacles and other bits of terrain that might make it less than a straight path from room to room. And great. Now I can't help wondering why those two jets are still flaming when we set them off several hours ago. Considering how easy it is to activate that little platform, I don't see why they decided to make it a permanently solved puzzle. Maybe it was just easier to program that way. I know it's been a while since we've used the whole, smaller bugs to float up thing, but it still feels like something we've done all too often to me. I suppose it's just another thing that just didn't land the way it was meant to. It's supposed to be something charming, and it's just obnoxious. Yeah, guess it's just personal taste. Huh. Wasn't expecting to see outright snow around here. I know Run just made all the ice barriers, but seriously? Snow just came out of nowhere on a planet that kind of feels like it was supposed to be the fire planet of this game. I know it's just a minor cosmetic detail, but it still bothers me, and to be fair, things bothering me helps give me more to talk about in a given clip. Anyway, let's see what this statue does. Apparently it does nothing just yet because the thing it's supposed to interact with was frozen. Did the possessed run this freeze that battering ram thing just for the sake of slightly inconveniencing us several hours later? Or did the game designers just make that thing covered in ice without thinking about how that would happen? Because generally speaking, Metroid usually is very meticulous about minor details, though the 2D games did a better job of environmental storytelling than the 3D ones. Again, I just keep having this odd sensation that this game is a non-Metroid game that was inspired by the series, instead of an actual final chapter of a trilogy in the Metroid franchise. They just simplified way too many things, ignored some of the very things they established about Phazon and Dark Samus in the previous two games, and the areas we've run across just don't have the complexity of other Metroid Prime areas. Hell, this puzzle feels like something that should have been done pretty early in the game, not something that we do almost 20 clips in. Huh. I guess the upgrade isn't actually here. Okay, I wasn't expecting any moments of us teleporting in this game, considering how much we use the ship. And we're suddenly in a tundra on Brio? Which kind of gives me the impression this game isn't going to give us all that much in terms of ice locations, despite having a pretty awesome ice-using boss. Don't get me wrong, I'm not really a fan of snow levels in general in video games. I think my opinion of snow and ice locations is about as low as what most people feel about sewer levels, but still, bit odd. Well, of course disaster struck you. You didn't manage to save your world before we arrived, and as I said before, we aren't going to do anything to save this world now that we're done clearing out the Phazon. The planet was already fucked before the pirates even looked in this general direction, and Samus isn't going to try to fix in any way now that the Phazon and pirates are done for. I'm pretty sure that Metroid Prime 2 did a better job of having Samus save the world she landed on, and I didn't care for Aether or the Luminoth that lived there. We did more to save Talon 4 as well, and that was just a planet full of wild animals and the broken remains of Chozo civilization. But we are doing nothing to make Brio a more pleasant planet for people to live on, and nothing to uplift the lizards who have gone downright feral at this point. Did I just screw myself over? Ah, good. I was worried that that was just a bottomless pit and that I'd trap myself in a spot I wouldn't be able to leave with what we've got. Sure, that's never been a problem before in this franchise, but as I keep saying, the way Metroid Prime 3 feels makes me have less confidence in the people making it than the previous two Metroid Primes. And apparently we've gained the screw attack a good deal before the final third of the game. At least I don't think we're getting close to the final third of the game just yet. I've been deleting the raw footage as I finished each clip, and all I can do is check how much footage is left, with little way to check how much footage we've already gone through at this point with the tools I've got, outside of maybe re-downloading the stuff that I've already uploaded. And since we've got around 7.5 hours left of the raw footage, as far as I can tell, I don't think we're anywhere close to the usual point we'd have grabbed the screw attack in previous Metroid Primes. Though maybe I'm just underestimating how much padding the game is going to throw into this story as we advance slowly but surely towards the ending. The other Metroid Primes had us go through some very frustrating key hunts. Now, I don't really remember when playing through this game if I got frustrated with hunting for keys like I did the previous two Metroid Primes, but I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to pull something like that, just to keep some kind of theme going. And that is one thing I have very much no objections about them simplifying to the point that it may as well not be there. Thank you for making the strong blast just the charge beam. It would have been somewhat annoying if I had to use the missiles, but I suppose not all that annoying considering how many we've got. And of course, the Chozo need the occasional statue on a planet they don't actually own, because those bird people need to be a very large part of the plot in this franchise. Granted, Nintendo said they were done using the Chozo at the end of Metroid Dread, but I'll believe it when I see it as Metroid Prime 4 comes out. Eventually. Right. Nearly back out of the ice section of Brio, and I have the distinct feeling we won't be back here ever again. Though maybe I'm just not giving the game designers enough credit, and we will go to the snow area again. It doesn't change the fact that the ice area of this game feels like it was entirely slapped in there for the sake of it, rather than them having any real plans for the place. That is such a far cry from the Fendra Drips in the first Metroid Prime. And come to think of it, Metroid Prime 2 had some pretty crappy environments, even if the actual level design of those areas felt more complicated and thought out. The first game just outdoes the other two in so many ways, and in so many categories. Again, I respect that they tried different things in each game, and that 2 and 3 messed up in their own unique ways. It certainly feels better than keeping things the same for a long time and becoming stale by doing so. Again, Pokemon is currently suffering from that, and the 3D Zeldas apparently suffered from that until Breath of the Wild. Nintendo is very familiar with series of theirs stagnating. Right, back to the throat of the stone snake to get out of here. I'm pretty sure our next stop is going to be back in Elysia, and we're going to start working on the next bit of story progress, assuming that grabbing the screw attack doesn't really count as story progress, considering how Metroid games tend to go in general. Again, this game is trying to be more narrative-driven than what the others generally did to a big degree, so it's easier to look at things via plot progress. Something that doesn't do this game any favors, since, well, it is kind of in that in-between space between the kind of narrative that the Metroid games typically went for and something more traditionally narrative. You can easily say this game has a, quote, better narrative than Super Metroid, but Super Metroid is a much more satisfying game to play through because its story elements work very well given the way the story was told. It's probably unfair to compare this game to a franchise-defining one, but to be fair, they are in the same franchise, and Super Metroid was made before this one. As a side note, I just can't find it in me to give a damn about what the Aurora unit was saying at that point, because, well, I kind of wanted to just scan the damn thing attacking us while she was talking. Anyway, apparently the ship counts as its own separate world. Again, we just have to travel way too much on our ship for my tastes in this game. And wonderful. It splits off into other smaller energy balls that can only be injured with even more phase-on enhanced guns. And it's apparently finished off by the smallest bits of the original creature, Suicide, diving into us. I suppose that's one way to bring our health down, and it's a decent motive for us to use Hyper Mode outside of just making a fight end faster at the cost of our own health. I wonder if this means as the game goes on we'll deal with more and more enemies that can only be destroyed with Hyper Mode. Narratively speaking, that would kind of make sense and help sell the idea that we're fighting against a more sentient phase-on than the previous two games that wants us to become corrupted. Though I suppose, from a gameplay standpoint, that would be annoying as hell, since again, Hyper Mode draws from our health, and we've got a decent number of other weapons we could possibly use on the various enemies as the game keeps pushing onwards. Ah well, guess it's a good thing I'm just a player and not a game designer, so I don't have to make those kinds of decisions. Anyway, looks like I'll be saving without reaching the ship just yet. Hope nobody minds that it'll take a little longer to get back off of Brio. It's not like I'm in a major hurry at the moment.